With me right now, we do have Speaker Dennis Bonnen. Welcome back.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Glad to have you back here on the show. Last time we were here, we had you on the show, and
yes.
Now we get to have you on as Speaker, which it's an honor to have you here. Let's talk about your philosophy when it comes to, being Speaker of the House. What is your overall philosophy as being Speaker?
Great question. I appreciate your asking that to lead off. My philosophy is that the job of the Speaker is to serve the members of the House. And the way you do that is that the Speaker doesn't tell the members what their agenda is, what the issues are, what they're supposed to be doing, and most importantly, what the answer to the questions that may be raised. The Speaker's job is to let the members drive the issues forward that matter to the members. And that's where we have highlighted in the House school finance reform, property tax reform, number one issue for the Texas House. And that's because each member has said that's the priority for them. And then the Speaker's job is to use the voice of the Speaker's office to highlight those issues and accent them to the public. And then the other job of the Speaker is to ensure that we get to a solution. Members' job is to tell us the answer. It's my job to make sure we have an answer. Not to say what it is, but to keep the members engaged. There are times throughout this session where things will break down. They'll break down possibly within members of the House. It may break down between the House and the Senate. But the Speaker's job is to say, let's get back in that room, let's get to the solution, and deliver that to the people of Texas.
When it comes to a difficult piece of legislation like HB2,
yes, sir.
How do we get to the finish line?
I think we get to the finish line largely on the way that we've begun. When you have the Lieutenant Governor, the Governor, and myself, the Speaker, and of course Chairman Burrows, who's doing an extraordinary job and did a phenomenal, graceful job of chairing that committee, hearing his bill yesterday. But when we all start on the same page, and we all say we're together, we're committed, and we will get House Bill 2, Senate Bill 2 passed this session, that's a huge advantage to getting to the finish line. But how you get there is you keep talking. You keep working together. You keep discussing the issue intelligently and respectfully. And you figure out a way to protect Texas taxpayers and allow their cities and counties to continue to provide the services to them that they need and they deserve, but ensure that that taxpayer is protected and given the opportunity to have their voice heard in the system.
If a member comes to you and they ask your advice, because as you know, on HB2 and SB2, you have it seems like a lot of support out there among the average citizens who want property tax relief. You have a lot of county officials and city officials who say, wait a minute, y'all are overstepping your bounds. We don't want HB2. If a member comes to you and says, hey, I'm getting a lot of pressure back home from the elected officials. Right. I'm also getting a lot of pressure back home from the citizens, and they're saying two different things. What's your advice to those members? How do they balance that?
Actually, it's not that hard of a balance, to be honest. And the advice I would give the members is treat every person you represent with respect. Treat those elected officials with respect. But you also have to show the respect for the people who are your constituents and vote for you. And the truth of it is, those elected officials have been trained to care and worry and be too nervous, and they don't want to have those parameters put on them because they're scared of the day that could come that could be this, that, or whatever thing they want to describe, and they're horrified of it. They shouldn't be, because what they're really saying, whether they intend to or not, is I'm afraid of the voter. I'm afraid of the constituency I represent with you not telling me I can do something I think I should do. The truth of it is, all House Bill 2 does is require local electeds at a certain point have an honest discussion with their constituents about what they want to do with their money. That's all it does. And then it allows those constituents to decide whether they agree with them on what they want to do with their money. But what the advice I'd give those legislators is, I would listen to the people who elected you, and no one person has elected you. The joke we make, you think people know who you are? Put your name on a ballot and you find out there are thousands who've never heard of you. Yeah. It takes thousands upon thousands to be elected to state office. And so the truth of it is, who we're hearing from are the thousands of people who elect us, that they want change and transparency and protection on property taxes. And we're hearing from one or two or three who say, don't do any of that.
Visiting with Speaker Dennis Bonnen here on the show. Before we take our first break, I want to get another piece of legislation that directly ties into this, and that is school financing. I know that is a big priority for you, yes, and it seems like everybody else here.
No, it is. Again, it's only a priority for me as representing my local district, but every member of the Texas House, it is their top priority. And as Speaker, I'm simply applying my voice to the message. School finance reform is a generational opportunity this session. For the first time in a number of years, we have the dollars available to make significant change. We have the ability to reduce recapture. We have the ability to reduce school property taxes. And more importantly, we have the ability to put local dollars, tax dollars, into the classroom in a more meaningful way than we've done in a very long time. And significantly, we do all those things by increasing the state share of education.
It seems, that I know there's a bill in the Senate right now that would give the $5,000 raises. What are your thoughts on that?
My thoughts on that is that it's February, and it's one of the things I love about the Texas Legislature. We come to Austin in January every other year, and we put ideas out in the domain through legislation for debate and discussion. And I think it's great that the Lieutenant Governor is so passionate about paying teachers more. We have the same passion in the House. We may have a different approach than he has, but we are all committed to doing better for the teachers in the classroom in Texas. And that's what makes the legislature a phenomenal place. It's a place where you put ideas on the table and you discuss them and debate them respectfully, and you let the best rise to the top.
And with the pay raise, and you say, okay, yeah, let's put it out there. It's one idea, but that's not school financing, right? That's not the total plan.
No, and the Lieutenant Governor has made it clear that's not his total plan either. I mean, he has a lot more to it than a teacher pay raise. And there's a significant amount to this plan beyond a teacher pay raise. And how we're going to choose to get about that, we're going to have to figure that out in the coming months, but we're only going to be able to do it by working together. School finance, you have to remember, is significant in that we have issues in there. I think we have the ability to change the way we pay teachers in Texas. I think we have the ability to change mental health issues in our schools. You want to make schools safer in Texas? Let's do a better job supporting our students on the issue of mental health. Let's give them more resources in those local districts to support those kids from K through 12 in those areas. So there are a lot of opportunities in school finance, and I think the House and Senate is aligned on taking advantage of all of them.
We've got to take one break. When we come back, we have a few more issues that we want to get into with Speaker of the House, Dennis Bonnen, here on the Chad Hasty Show, News Talk, KFYO. We'll be right back. Speaker of the House, Dennis Bonnen, here on the program, and I do want to talk about the Texas Tech Vet School. In the House-based budget, Texas Tech Vet School, it's in there, and it's fully funded.
Yes.
You're in favor of the vet school.
I am in favor of the vet school, but only because guys like Representative Burrows, Representative Furlow, and, of course, Representative Ford Price and Smithy have convinced me to be. That was an issue that I was unfamiliar with, to be very candid. I wasn't engaged in, had no reason to be. But those gentlemen have impressed upon me the importance for them and their communities and for Tech and for the Panhandle. And so I've heard them, and I respect their perspective. And so we have supported the vet school in the base budget in the House. And they've got great representation with Representative Furlow and Representative Burrows and, of course, Chairman Price and Smithy. So I think we're going to be successful on the vet school in the House. I sure hope we will. And that's all we can do. But the vet school, I struggle to understand why anyone would really have a problem with it, to be honest. I think it's good for Texas. I think it's good for the Panhandle, and we're good with it in the House.
Visiting with Speaker Dennis Bonnen here on the Chad Hasty Show. We have a few minutes left with him. You brought up when we were talking about education and school financing. When do you anticipate a rollout of a possible bill?
We plan to roll a bill out next week in the House. And we're excited to work Chairman Huberty's done on that, and we're excited about the work that the School Finance Commission has done for the last year and a half, working with the House and Senate together and citizens on the issue. And so we're going to file a bill next week that's going to look very similar, not identical, but very similar to the recommendations of the School Finance Commission. And again, we continue to work closely with our friends in the Senate and in the governor's office so that, when you have three leaders working together, you get good results. And so we're continuing that on all the issues that are of significance, like school finance, property tax reform. We're doing that.
Is that the big difference between, this session and the previous session, is that, right now the three leaders, and it just seems like when I've had some of these lawmakers who have been on the last 2 days, each one of them says there's a different feeling. There's still a different feeling. Even, this far into the session, there's still a different feeling right now.
Well, I hope it is. Lieutenant Governor and I and the governor have all agreed that we will disagree at some point, but we're not going to get on your radio show or a local newspaper and talk about those disagreements. We're going to do it the way leaders of Texas should do it. We're going to do it face-to-face in meetings with respect and intelligent discussion. We're not going to argue through the press, which frankly I don't see us having arguments at all. But right now we're agreeing. And I love it because it's driving some people crazy, and we're having a blast working together.
Yeah. Visiting with Speaker Dennis Bonnen. Real quick, what's another big priority that's not being talked about right now that's going to come out of the House, you think?
I think mental health is one of those priorities. School safety, mental health, but there's so many priorities that you have. One thing that I think some people lose sight of is that, we have 150 members in the House, we have 31 in the Senate, and they're all capable of walking and chewing gum at the same time. And so we must multitask in this process, in this system. And a lot of times people say, well, y'all are focused too much on this or too much on that. We're not. We have members focused on so many different issues. And as Speaker, it would be irresponsible for me to start highlighting one over another because that's for the members to do. But we have committee meetings going on in multiple committees every single day. And I can tell you the chairmen and women of those committees and the members of those committees think the issues they're dealing with are the most important issues. Yeah. And so that's what makes it great, because we have smart people who are engaged and working hard and committed to their service that really are passionate about all the issues that are in their specific area. But the one thing is, we are unified on property tax reform and school finance. And for the Texas House and the Senate, those are the number one issues that we will tackle this session.
Speaker Dennis Bonnen, appreciate your time.
Thanks for having us.